or good afternoon, everyone, depending on what part of the country or the world you're joining us from. This is the Making Service part of your after-school program culture webinar. Fausto, whenever you're ready, you can go to the next slide. My name is Jessie Newman. I'm joined by Fausto López, and we're both with the American Institutes for Research. This webinar is part of our ongoing Beyond the Bell series. So I'll provide a quick introduction to the series, but then I'm going to turn it over to Fausto to talk all things service learning. Next slide, Fausto. I'm going to go ahead and start with just a quick overview of Beyond the Bell. For those of you who aren't familiar with our resources, we have a lot of them and offer many, like this webinar, for free. You can visit our website to learn more about our toolkit, which Fausto will talk about shortly, our in-person and online professional learning services, and how you can become a certified Beyond the Bell trainer. Today's webinar on service learning is the 6th and final webinar in the series, and we're really excited to have you on with us. Each webinar features one of the 96 tools in the Beyond the Bell toolkit, and it will be available for free download on our website at www.beyondthebell.org. You'll receive an email from us following the webinar, and we'll give you information on how you can access and download that tool for free, and we'll keep it available until middle of July. We also record all of our webinars, and they're available on the Beyond the Bell YouTube channel. I'll put the link in the chat in just a minute, and we'll also include that in the email as well, and it'll be posted on our website. Previous webinars have included youth development, which Fausto led, staff development with Janet Levings, who's another one of our awesome Beyond the Bell trainers. I did one on social and emotional learning Beyond the Bell. We also heard from Laura Shanklin about summer programming and using data for continuous improvement, which was done by Marian Sullivan just a few months ago. So we've got a ton of great resources about really important after-school topics, and those are all available on our YouTube channel, so go ahead and check those out. A lot of what you'll hear Fausto cover today ties into those previous topics. We're going to help you make some of those connections along the way. And finally, I will just admit it, we love data. We're going to send you a short survey after this webinar, and we really hope you complete it because we love hearing from you, and we're always looking to improve. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Fausto to tell us more about service learning. I'll be keeping an eye on the chat box if you have any questions. So sit tight and enjoy the next 27 minutes. Fausto?
Thank you, Jessie. Welcome, everybody, to today's webinar. Covering this very pertinent topic to youth engagement, community engagement, and general service as we really think about the broader application of not just what is service learning, but why service learning. We'll try to just unpack that a bit today. So service learning, we're going to talk a bit about just the broader definition and application of this strategy of engaging young people in service. What does it really look like to be of service? And then we're going to kind of give you a quick overview of Tool 78 and then really highlight Tool 79. Then we're going to talk about this as a broader strategy for connecting young people or applying skill building in your program. So you cannot, in this day and age, not talk about how the service learning strategy is an explicit way to really, or can be an explicit way to tie social emotional learning, bubble up intentionality, or keep holding our programs and staff accountable to being intentional about programming, and then obviously apply research that then is very a clear way of engaging in intentionality in activity design. So real quickly, just to try to make this platform a bit interactive, I'm going to give us an opportunity, as you can see, that for those of us who are joining me in front of a computer, we have a introduction activity really quickly. So just talk in the chat box. So do your own kind of internal reflection and think about a service learning project or service project that you have either coordinated or participated in. And if you wanted to just, again, for those while you're listening and kind of thinking about this, just who participated, what was accomplished through this service learning activity or project. And if you would also just share in the chat, what are those key elements that make either that service project super successful, or just kind of broadly, what are those elements that you think should be incorporated into a well-rounded service learning project, again, that you've either participated in recently or in the past. We're going to let you go ahead and think about that, but please share as you go along, because we always like to have some sharing and kind of incubating of older or new ideas. So go ahead and do that at your leisure. For those who are there, just go ahead and put it into the chat box as you think about that service project that you have participated in the past, or maybe one that you're incubating for the summer that you think is going to go super well. Okay, but just go ahead and share that as you go, and we'll share some of those highlights as we go along. As you think about that service project, I'm going to go ahead and talk about Beyond the Bell. We represent Beyond the Bell. Somebody is sharing their screen. I'm not sure who that is.
Hang on one second. What do we have going on here?
Now viewing Shani. Shani, if you could not share. I'm not sure what happened.
Hang on, Fausto. I'm going to make you the presenter again. I have no idea how that happened.
And I will share my screen again. Okay, going back to Beyond the Bell. I'm grounded in, well, we'll start with the second bullet, build on the idea of continuous quality improvement, because that was a great example of how everything that you plan doesn't always go perfectly to plan. So the Beyond the Bell toolkit specifically includes 96 tools and framing around youth development and the application of youth development. The toolkit is founded around the principles of youth development or engaging young people in an asset-based approach to programming to provide, again, positive experiences. And specifically then, what does it take for staff or the program to meet those marks? And so we have a whole bunch of planning tools and great activity-based tools for staff and program leaders to think about programming and how to get better at the programs that they offer. Because as we know, across quality improvement, the work we do is complex, dynamic, and framing it under continuous quality improvement allows us to be nimble or proactive about our approach to making sure we're meeting young people where they're at, right? So youth development also talked about as a youth-centered approach to working both with young people and obviously with their communities. And so with that work across any of the different aspects of programming, we look to develop programming intentionally, implement it with intentionality, even evaluate it with intentionality, which means we don't just look at it for the sake of looking at it or collect data for the sake of collecting data, is that we want to activate data to make sure that we're providing us that necessary information or critical information to make sure that we're being responsive at the individual level and collectively to our young people. And like I said, then we have also tools and resources to just make sure that we can keep getting better. Because as much as we know that if we're doing it well one year, we want to sustain that work. And any of those reflective, evaluative processes, we don't want to discount them. So we want to make sure, again, that we activate that data so that we can make sure that we're making those tweaks to programming that are necessary so we can get better ongoing. Beyond the Bell is broken down into 6 chapters: program management, program design, partnerships and collaboration, obviously program delivery, evaluation, and improvement. And this topic specifically is a great topic because service learning cuts across all of those chapters, because we need to make sure that we have it properly planned and well structured. We know we have to apply intentionality and youth development approaches. We can't do any of these service projects alone or in isolation, so we need partners, and we need to push collaboration. Collaboration doesn't just happen. Then we need to make sure that it is applied so that the young people feel the fruit of their labor in the delivery. And then we need to push evaluation and improvement across the board, specifically using service learning to teach or engage young people in this process experientially so that they see how evaluation and improvement are a constant, right? And so that it's not, they're going to see this applied across their academic trajectory to make sure that they understand that evaluation improvement across all of this work never stops. So what is this youth development thing you talk about, Fausto? Jesse mentioned that we do have archives around a youth development webinar for those who want to use that, or maybe pass that along to their staff members so that they can kind of look deeper into youth development. But at the end of the day, we know that quality youth programming provides young people with safe and supportive learning experiences. And this is a cross-learning setting. So this is in the non-for-profit, community-based setting, the faith-based setting, and in the school-based setting. This is how we know that, based off of educational psychology, how young people and just humans in general learn best. So we all need to feel safe. We need to be supportive. We need to have positive interactions with both peers and adults so that we can even get to the top of this summit and make sure, or of this pyramid, and make sure that our cognitive abilities are open and ready to do that, and how we sustain that. And we sustain that kind of cognitive readiness by engaging them in reflection, in choices, in voice, and in active planning, which again is another great vehicle why service learning is such a great example of how not just to talk about youth development, but how to see it in action. Okay, so I see that some folks are putting their service projects in the chat. Again, if you are in front of a computer, please go ahead and write in a great example of a service project, either that you've participated in, coordinated in, or just kind of pushed you along. And we're going to get into what is service learning now. So what is it? Well, service learning isn't anything new. I think the emphasis of why service learning is something that is critically important in this day and age, to really push both civic engagement, skill development, just general young people's connections to their community so they don't discount where they're from, is critical. But the idea of community service, as it might have been once upon applied, and now the emergence, or since like the late early 90s, really this idea of like flipping it, reframing community service, which again, we always talk about when we're in front of people, how many of us probably didn't have the best experience with that term, community service, and how all words have power, especially in this realm of intentionality and in youth development, but we definitely don't want to use a term that is kind of one-dimensional, and at times came off a bit punitive depending on who it is that you're engaging in this community service. So service learning was an opportunity to add a more structured component to the community service that we were already, and young people, adults, communities have been engaging in for a long time. This gives us an opportunity to structure it, to take a second back and not just go out there and do service, but really reflect on why are we serving? What are we doing? How are we engaging young people? How are we leveraging young people's both interest and voice in what we might be mandating them to do? And every time we bring it up, the young people always, their body language goes down, their attitude about the service goes down, because for a long time it has been something that has been prescribed. Service learning already, as a flip, takes young people at the helm of this and says, what do you want to do? And why? And thus already pushing them into a place of research or applied research to really inform the need, so that right away we are leveraging or changing the lens from to an asset-based approach. We are asking our young people as assets to identify what is going on in their communities, and community could be school, community could be where they live, community could be the city, community could be an area that they want to positively impact. And at that point, then really push them to understand and work closely with their peers, closely with their community around that social aspect, to really make sure that then they can understand the broader application of this service. So obviously, what can it help? We have seen good quality service projects when implemented well with adults who care and push them to really identify these key areas of interest to then provide service, has a broader application to their academics. It also has the profound application to their leadership skills, pushing them to identify what it is that they think that they do well and that they can take to the table. Always thinking that all young people have different skills that they can leverage, and different interests are going to awaken those skills or those passions in different ways. It strengthens their ties to the broader community, understanding that not all communities are going through the same thing. It really activates young people to really start identifying in a really more action research way to what is happening in their community and how they can be further involved, and really then start solving some of the issues that they identify. And it really does really spark passion. A lot of our work is really about trying to find and empower young people to find their own flow, their own direction, empower them to really understand the why they need to learn the broader constructs that are being presented to them in school. That's bullet number one. And service learning, when done strategically, really can emphasize all of these broader learning goals that the young people are dealing with. So what are some key characteristics? The service learning, just by definition, has to be hands-on and interactive, which already is why it's a key way of really spicing up programming from overall activities to a way to get young people moving, working together, and applying all the different types of connections of learning that happen depending on the topic. It already pushes both the program and the young people both to work together, but then to think about ability and age appropriateness of the actual activity right away, depending on how much, once you engage them in the timeline or the sequence, as we'll talk about it in a second, about the project, it already puts them into a strategic planning mindset where they know that they need to execute something from the beginning to the end in a specific amount of time, which already is a broad application of these soft skills or 21st century skills that we know we need young people to have as they start to organize themselves in their academic trajectory. We connect them to each other and other people's lives, which already starts talking about how we develop empathy amongst young people and how we empower them to make these broader connections to each other. It gives them the opportunity for authentic decisions, not necessarily always this menu of options or us doing the best we can with the data that we've leveraged to say, you have all identified this. In the moment, service learning allows them to make and pivot, learn from their trial and error, hit walls in their research or in their activities as they're trying to apply solutions that then make them have to then innovate and think again on their feet, which is what we need and need to encourage them to do. We need to encourage leadership. Who is leading this team? Putting them into teams, thinking about grouping strategies that allow them to tout success, so to really reach some type of outcomes and outputs that then they can actually cherish and celebrate together along the way, not just always the culminating activity. Service learning allows for a lot of these celebrations for cycles of leadership amongst young people along the way, which puts the emphasis on us as program leaders to make sure that we are intentional in our design. And we're going to give you a tool today that should help think through that. Obviously, relationships. That is at the key of all learning, and most definitely key to making sure that young people learn to work together, especially as they work through trial and error. And they're going to need an adult or caring adult, depending on the ratios that are necessary for the activity, to make sure that you're empowering them, pushing them along, encouraging them to keep going as they tackle new things, learn new concepts, and apply, or even at times suffer through the learning. So that is the best type of learning that isn't always so straightforward. So quality service learning, which is, again, there's service learning and then there's quality. So let's talk about how quality should define all of our work across both activities and projects. And at the end of the day, service learning, to make sure that it is aligned to a quality construct, has integrated, embedded, or applied learning. The young people are working through concepts. There might be a little framing, but really this is the opportunity for staff members to work themselves out of the way, to really allow them to, if we can structure the activities using the tools that we'll provide you today, it really should allow us to both think about what we're doing with the young people, but really provide opportunities for the young people to lead, to take on the project, to get out there, to get their hands dirty, both figuratively and actual, depending on the activity, and apply what they're either learning currently or just these applied academic concepts, because academics or applied concepts are everywhere. But again, it's going to take us as the activity leaders to make sure that the activities, the service learning projects are well thought out, but then allow this to happen. Obviously, service the community, but this is about making it purposeful. Not just, again, we all know at the end of the day that something is not right in every community, in every setting that you want to talk about as a community, but this is about the ability or to really spark the young people's interest enough that they identify what they want to do within that community. That is different than just, okay, we're going to go clean this area, even though we understand the why, unless we really allow the young people to incubate the why or what they want to do next, that is going to be the difference between, again, mandated community service that has like a bit of a punitive tone to it versus this is your service learning project. What do you want to do? How can we help you do that? Collaboration. Collaboration just doesn't happen, specifically amongst young people. So this, again, puts the onus on us as the intentional staff leader to make sure that we are looking through our sequence to make sure that we are providing these key opportunities for collaboration, that we're leveraging young people, we're providing them opportunities to learn from each other, to create trust, bonding, so that it is a productive part of program versus at times different issues can come up through collaboration. Youth voice. And a lot of folks around the country always have that question, how do I do this? How do I do this beyond just another survey? Well, this is an opportunity to allow young people to incubate and talk amongst themselves. If you want to do it within teams, at the individual level, to think it through what they want to do. And this gives them an opportunity for authentic youth voice that creates agency, self-efficacy, because they're allowed the platform to say, hey, this is a small issue and I want to make it bigger. Or this is already a salient, gigantic issue and I want to come together with my teammates and attack it. This is when you are empowering them to know that they can actually apply a growth mindset in action, not just in theory. Civic responsibility. We all know that, again, if we look at different types of data out there, our voting trends in the United States are relatively low. At times we can talk about how a lot of communities feel apathetic about what's happening. Again, this is a way of sparking the interest, again, the passion of young people to know that they can do something way about what's affecting their lives way before they turn that magical age of 18 where they're allowed to do all these amazing things. This is about preparing them and giving them the tools that they need so that when they get into those situations, they are ready to take helm, not figure it out as they go. Even though that's kind of usually the process, and maybe that's what we're indoctrinating them in. But they'll learn that through reflection, because we know that all of this is about ongoing processing, applying new theories, and really turning them into the next generation of scientists, social scientists, physical scientists, scientists. The idea here is that we need to get them into the process of thinking through what it is that they did, what happened, what can they do differently, or how they can sustain it. And this is about, again, in getting our young people to do this earlier as their brains are developing, as their brains are forming, so that these things are easily put in place as they are older once it crystallizes. And they're provided all these other amazing enrichment opportunities as they go along. And reflection and evaluation in a way then allowing them to start thinking and applying, again, broader math concepts to evaluation, again, measuring, tracking, developing goals, I would say establishing goals so that they learn how to then benchmark how they accomplish goals, which again is already pushing into these broader, more meta organizational psychological connections that we want to start priming our young people to use, because that's what we're finding from the science of learning and development. One is that learning happens all the time, but more specifically is that we have to just start priming them to be better once they get older. And that most means not only just how to take tests, but really how to process, how to think through, how to benchmark. So, Fausto, that was a lot of information on service learning. How do we do it? So we have a wonderful tool that kind of really pushes you to really think and be intentional about the design of the activity or of the project or of the initiative, because there's probably going to be various projects across your service learning initiative, which is great. Tool 78 from the Beyond the Bell toolkit primes you to think about the mapping, the asset mapping. What do we need? Already, it puts the activity designer, and if you look at the tool, and you and also can apply to working within the young people to help them structure how they're going to identify all the assets and all the different resources that they might need to make their service learning project successful. or even what is it that they want to work towards. Tool 79 really pushes the activity designer, once maybe the young people have identified the topic or the initiative, to make sure that you are structuring it well internally at the organizational level to make sure that you are allowing their project to be a success. Because although we want young people to be at the helm, we know that that's why they pay us all the big bucks, to make sure that at least everything is well thought out, that everything is intentional. So we start with everything from the project name. Please don't call it service learning project. You'll see that your young people probably won't resonate too strongly with a generic name. This is already the first obstacle, but also the first opportunity to engage young people in voice. What do you all want to call this thing? What should we brand it? How are we going to make sure that other young people also want to be involved? Because we always want to develop a critical mass with all of this work. Again, it pushes us to be intentional about the age, what area, what grade level are we working with, right? Because we know we want to make sure that we meet our young people both where they are based on age and stage appropriateness. So we want to make sure that we don't tackle too big of things depending on their age level. We want to make sure that we give them the opportunity for success. We also want to think about what are the areas, what are the subject areas across academics that us as planners can say, yes, we're going to go do this water purification project. Where else does that connect to? What else, what other academic concepts can we explore, apply, expose the young people to as they are measuring water? And so it allows us to think through that, think through the purpose, and then obviously provide a brief description, because that lives in advocacy, in marketing, and enticing more young people to join your initiative. Then we go through all the organizational aspects of a good quality service learning project. Everything from the scheduling to the fundraising to which community partners do we need to both connect with or work with, how are we documenting this, and it really puts you in a planning mindset to really think through across every aspect of all the different conditions of a service learning project to make sure that there is some type of answer in there. Even if it depends, you will work this out with young people, that is already putting you in the place of understanding that you're trying to activate youth voice, even if you don't have an answer in each quadrant, which is totally okay. As we design the tools, we try to go extremely thorough. And it is always, as you receive the tool or work through the tool, you'll see that some of these things may not pertain to you. Transportation may just be walking down the block, but intentionality in planning is the same as strategic thinking. So we want to make sure that as we plan intentionally, we are thinking through all of the constructs that might either be obstacles or assets as we implement. Academic goals don't always have to be front and center in a service learning project. You may have a curriculum that already is explicit to this. That is another value of service learning as a broader application of a strategy, that there are a lot of really great curriculum or activity guides on the internet. I would only say just make sure that it is meeting what you want to do or what the young people specifically want to do. And academic goals are always a great place to start, because we always want to be able to tout to our partners not only the outcome or the output of the work, but specifically at times it's also good to just say, look at these amazing things that they're also reaping. What is the civic goal? How are you making sure that youth voice and choice are put in there? And then we really want you to make sure to be explicit about your timeline, because we want to make sure that we are thinking through the complexity of the projects that the young people are identifying and make sure that they could actually accomplish them or benchmark the accomplishments to understand even what short-term or long-term outcomes are. Again, all in context, all experientially, thinking through it through reflection, and obviously thinking through evaluation about what more they need. So that tool will be available.
Thank you, Fausto.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
We are at time in a minute, so I wanted to take a second to wrap us up and remind everyone that this amazing tool that Fausto is walking everyone through will be available for free on our website. It is our featured tool of the month. So we'll send out an email after this webinar and give everyone access to this. We'll also send out the survey, and we'll be uploading this to our YouTube channel, so please make sure you check it out. And as always, we'd love to hear from you. So if you have questions, if you want to talk service learning more with Fausto, we are always available. Just email us at www, or go to our website at www.beyondthebell.org, or you can email us at beyondthebell@air.org. So thanks everyone for joining. Thank you, Fausto, so much for giving us all of this wonderful information. I hope everyone enjoys the rest of their day.
Thank you, everybody.